Welcome to Make EdTech 100. I'm Lindy, educator, K-12 EdTech advisor, and your host. This is a podcast where we keep it real about what actually works in classrooms. No hype, no overwhelm, just practical strategies, honest stories, and tools that make a real difference for teachers and students. So come along with me on a journey to make EdTech 100. We gave kids technology and we forgot to teach them how to use it. Education has invested millions in instructional technology, devices and platforms and apps and you name it, but a lot of times we seem to have skipped something essential, teaching students how to understand and navigate the digital world that they live in and they really can't get away from. If you follow my work, you know that I'm big on teaching kids the goods and the bads when it comes to technology and promoting the healthy discussion of the goods and the bads of technology. And we can't just pull our wool over our eyes and act like it doesn't exist. Even if it's banned, we still can't do that. We still have to have these discussions. So that is why I am thrilled to have Dr. Kelli Erwin from learning.com on the podcast today. Learning.com is a company that I partner with a lot because one, our philosophies really jive on this matter of teaching kids healthy, responsible use. And two, I truly believe that they're providing that missing piece of the technology puzzle that all schools need. So welcome, Kelli. Start by telling us what do listeners need to know about you and learning.com.
Yeah, well, I've been in the field of education for, almost 25 years, maybe a little longer than 25 years now. I've been a kindergarten through second grade teacher, tech app specialist, GT specialist, district administrator. When I was a district administrator, my focus was really on instructional technology. And right now I'm currently the learning.com director of enablement and education solutions. So what do you need to know about learning.com? Learning.com has been providing digital literacy instructions to students since 1999. And that's really where I first learned about learning.com is when I was a teacher and I built the very first elementary K-5 technology lab when I was working in Galveston Independent School District. And I had come from the business world, didn't really know how to necessarily teach technology. I just used it all the time. And so it was kind of interesting because that very first year, Texas had our first technology applications curriculum adoption. And so as I was going through that process, I was testing all of the vendors and looking at all of the curriculum, and I was really using it with my students. And my students were the ones that selected learning.com. And the short version of it is I've kind of always been connected to learning.com. Since then, whether I was a teacher or a specialist or at district admin, learning.com was just kind of always part of my experience, sort of like what you were talking about, Lindy. My mission really aligns with what we do as a company. And I just wholeheartedly believe in the curriculum and the benefits that it brings to students. And so really learning.com kind of began by teaching online safety, basic technology skills, and it's just kind of evolved from there, right? I mean, we still do that for sure. We still teach those skills, but over the years, our curriculum has really evolved with the changing needs of districts and the advancements of technology. So, the great thing about our curriculum, in my opinion, and having used it as a teacher, is that it really follows that full learning cycle, right? There's instruction, practice, application, there's assessments, all of these things to kind of help students along their path of becoming consumers and producers using technology. And then, all along the way, learning.com has really focused on helping students build those healthy and proficient relationships with technology. Because, you know this, I know this, we've all seen this. If students know better, they really and truly can do better. We just have to give them the knowledge and skills along the way.
So true. We tend to underestimate kids. And if they know better, the majority. There's always the
Right.
few, and there's always the few in adults as well,
Right.
of
Right.
people in any age are maybe going to misuse or do things they shouldn't. But the vast majority have a moral compass that is driving them towards doing the right thing. But we have to tell them and educate them about what the right thing is.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. It's a lot of times when I'll go out and I'm doing trainings or I'm talking to people at conferences, I'll just use learners, right? I won't use students, I won't use kids, I use learners because the reality is I can go to the grocery store and I will see a mom who has put her phone in the hands of her 2-year-old child, and they're just kind of doing stuff on the device, right? So whether you're the youngest of the youngest, or my mom who is in her late 80s and uses technology, right? If we teach the learners how to make good choices, they're better apt to make good choices. To your point, they still sometimes don't choose to, but they at least have the knowledge and skills to make those good choices.
Yep, to have the option
Right.
to, at least it's an option
Right.
to try to make it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I love that you said you've been around since 1999. Kelli and I just saw each other IRL in real life. We were just at the FETC conference in Orlando last
Oh,
week. It feels like it was a month ago
it
because it was a
does.
very long, we were just discussing before we started recording. It was great and a lot. Just very long days, lots of learning, lots of great discussions.
That's it.
And I got to present in the learning.com room a couple times. And the first time I said something about, they've been around for like 20 years. And Kelli's like, no, 26 years. Oh, like I had been saying 20 years. No, we're closer to 30 years that learning.com has been around. And I used the joke that it's a joke, but it's a true story that I was telling somebody once about learning.com. And they just stopped me in the middle of my sentence. And they're like, wait, I have to know, how did they get learning.com? They got it because they were literally 1999.
Mm-hmm.
They were the
Mm-hmm.
original, legit, on the street cred EdTech before EdTech was even a word. You
That's
were
it.
right. Like you were actually able to
Yep.
get that domain of
Yeah.
learning.com. That just tells how long the company has been around. So this isn't a new thing. This is
No.
not
No.
teaching kids how to use tech correctly and responsibly is not a new thing, and it's definitely not a new thing for learning.com.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will say that we are an established company that works a little bit like a startup. And what I mean by that always is that we have this really solid foundation of all of those years, but our team is so excited and passionate about what we do for students that we are always on the move, right? We're always trying to stay ahead of the trends. We're trying to make sure that we are gathering input from students and teachers and administrators so that we are providing what they all need, right? As we kind of go down this path of technology and the way it advances.
To learn just a little bit more about you, I named the podcast Make EdTech 100 because it's really open to interpretation. So I like to ask all my guests, what does Make EdTech 100 mean to you?
Okay, that's a fun question, first of all. Let's see. To me, I would say it really means making sure that we not only provide tech skills, but support the human skills, right? Because I think it's a little bit of both, right? We have to have all of it. If we're truly going to help students become 100% prepared for their life with and around technology. Because, the tech we know today, and the one we've yet to explore, we really have to make sure they're ready for that, right? And it's not just knowing how to use the technology or click here, click there. It's truly knowing how to evaluate, how to persevere in challenges. So it really is kind of that balance of the tech and the human piece. So you're making students 100% ready to go.
I love that interpretation. That is such a great interpretation. Thank you for sharing that because
Sure.
it's so true. We can't get away from tech. In fact, one of the sessions I did at FATC, it was the second one I think that I did at FATC, and spoiler alert, I'm doing it again at TCA coming up in 2 weeks. Well, by the time you listen to this, it would be more like a week. But just so you know, Kelli and I have 2 weeks to recuperate from FETC and get ready for TCA in San Antonio. It's going to be a great time. But I did it at FETC and I'm doing it again at TCA in a couple weeks, is this idea of, I called the session, it's not digital citizenship, it's just citizenship. And I told them at the beginning, I'm like, this session is meant to get you to think. And one of the activities I did, and I think you missed it, Kelli, because you were coming back from your poster session. Were you there when I did the stand? Right. I had them stand. Were you there when we stood and then they sat? Okay, well, this will be a surprise for you too. It actually was incredibly enlightening to me. So I created these statements that were ways that we interact with technology that don't involve a screen or don't involve grabbing or touching a device, and often don't even involve touching a piece of technology or really touching anything. And my goal was to get everybody in the room to sit down. So I had them all stand and I said, sit down if, and then I had these different statements. And when I was prepping, I think I came up with like 8 or 9 different statements, maybe even 10, just in case I wanted to make sure I had every person sitting by the time we were done. By number 2, all but 2 people in the room were sitting.
Wow.
By the second one, and I prepped 10 items. Wow. And then by the third one, the second person had sat, and we had 1 person left, and the fourth one, she was out. She was down for the count. We didn't even get to 5. And the whole point was to think about, as you were walking or driving to the convention center this morning, did you drive a car that has self-driving features? Do you have a thermostat in your house that adjusts automatically, like the Nest thermostats? And the whole point was to show that we no longer interact with technology just through a screen. We haven't for a really long time, but it just keeps getting more and more and more. And the more AI is getting embedded in everything, the more that's the case. And to show that even if you are low tech, no tech at your school, if you ban cell phones, whatever it is, your students are still interacting with technology in your school, as they come to school, at home. It doesn't matter. And you can't get away from it if you're a member of society.
That's such a good point. If you stop and think about it. And I think, too, it depends on how people define technology, right? I mean, technology can be
a pen.
Yeah. I mean, it can be just about anything that was at one point in time considered innovative.
Yep. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've ever needed a pen and not had a pen, you know that it's a very important technology, because when you need a pen and don't have one, it's a very frustrating experience. Yeah, it's a really good point. And that was part of the session too, just getting them to think about, we no longer just interact via screens. And one of the things I did was I had created this AI generated image, which honestly I do not do very often. Yeah. Even though I'm kind of the AI person, I really don't do a lot of AI generated images. But one of the images on the slide was a kid interacting with an embodied AI, aka a robot.
Okay.
And I said, what's going to happen once this is not a screen. This is not logging into a website. This is not logging into an app, right? Like, and you might look at that and go, oh, we're a long ways from having embodied robots walking around. No, we're not. We're not.
We're really not.
No, we're not. And I know that scares people. They don't like to often hear that, but it's the reality. So you mentioned Learning.com's curriculum. Tell us a little bit about that. What does this curriculum entail?
Yeah. So, I truly love this curriculum that we have. We've been very purposeful in how we design it. And we have everything from asynchronous to synchronous curriculum. We have learning paths where we have looked at state and national standards, and we've created learning sequences, learning paths that students can go through that give them grade level appropriate, pedagogically based instruction, practice, etc. And we've done it in kind of a cool way. Some of our curriculum are video based, right? So students are seeing either animated videos or AI created videos that we've used different tools for, or sometimes it's real live people in the videos, right? So we have a variety of different ways that students can learn, right, through the videos. We've also created slide decks that help teachers kind of go through the process of leading discussions and driving instruction, because we know that even this far into the game with technology, not all teachers have all of the knowledge and skills to truly teach the technology, right? I mean, I remember when my first year when I was a teacher, I was so excited that we had email in our school. And I thought, why are people not communicating through email? Why is it that every week at these staff meetings, the principal is like, make sure you're checking your email? I mean, it was funny to me, right? And so I think we're a little bit past that. I mean, I think people check their email now, but there are technologies and ways of communicating and ways of doing things that are new. I mean, I'll pick on AI for a minute, right? I mean, it's not new, but it's newer in the field of education, and we still have a lot of people who are either fearful, uncomfortable, just unsure how to use it. And then, we have the opposite side of the spectrum of folks like you and me who use it daily. So I think that's kind of a big piece of this whole puzzle, is making sure that teachers have what they need, not just students. So we provide those slide decks. If you're a teacher who is very comfortable with whatever that topic happens to be, you can just use the slide deck because the slides are created and they have the important information on them. If you're a teacher who's uncomfortable with the concepts, then we've provided lesson plans and talking points and activities that you can do. So that's just the instructional piece of it, right? And then students have interactive practices. One of my favorite things about the interactive practices is that we have tried to design them in a way that sort of mimics the types of questions that students would see in online assessments, so that they just become comfortable with these different tools and question types and all of these kinds of things, so that by the time they get to taking their online assessments that really matter in their present and future, we've kind of removed that barrier, right, of the uncertainty and the uncomfortableness, so that they're able to really show what they know based on the topics. So those are the practices. And then we've also created projects, and projects allow students to truly go in and create something, right? They're consumers, they're producers, they're publishers, as well as being creators throughout this process. And they're doing it in a way that it connects them to some type of a real world something. Maybe it's, for example, maybe they're reading an article that has a fake article that we published within the curriculum, and they have to evaluate it using the CARP method, right? So they're truly going in and trying to look at the cited sources. They're trying to decide if it's relevant, whose perspective is it from, that type of thing. So they are truly applying what they've learned in these projects. And then, of course, we have benchmark and summative assessments to kind of help provide teachers with the data they need to drive future instruction.
I love that you have the asynchronous piece for, like you said, those teachers that might not be comfortable having the conversation. I hear this from teachers all the time. I don't know what an algorithm is.
Right.
I
Right.
don't understand terms of use of technology because they weren't taught. And you end up with this,
Yeah.
perpetual cycle of teachers and parents that don't
Mhm.
know themselves. I
Right.
think that's one of the reasons why schools taking on teaching these digital citizenship
Mhm.
type skills
Mhm.
sets
Mhm.
is so critical, because we've got to like cut that chain at some
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
So it keeps going.
It's funny you say that. I had a flashback to my typing class in high school when you said that, right? And I remember being on the typewriters and learning to type, and they were advanced for the time. And then I think about today's students, and whether I'm sending a text message to one of my kids or I am writing an email at work, if I didn't have those typing skills, I really would be limited, if you will, in my ability to communicate. So I would say the other thing that I love about learning.com is that the topics that we cover, right? So we cover everything from what is a pointer and how to use a pointer to typing to word processing, spreadsheets, computational thinking. You were talking about algorithms earlier, coding, AI literacy. So there's just, I can't think of anything that maybe we don't cover, right? Everything is a foundation that builds into something else.
On that note, where does learning.com's curriculum typically live in a school?
That's a great question. And it really depends on the environment. I've seen everything from there is a dedicated technology teacher, like what I did, where you are teaching it sort of in the specials rotation a couple of times a week, to it being integrated into, like, for example, when I worked in Pasadena, one of the things that we had chosen to do was to integrate technology into fourth and seventh grade social studies. Like that was where we started, right? And so we worked with the lead teachers and we figured out where the different assignments, learning projects, etc., would fit into the social studies curriculum so that it wasn't just one more thing to teach, but that it supported whatever it was, the teachers were teaching in the concept. So it maybe they were teaching, I don't know, I can't think of a good social studies example right now, but they're teaching whatever topic in social studies, and the students needed to do research and create, and write a paper. Okay, so they could do that using technology, but what if? What if they worked together with someone and collaborated and created a presentation so that they were teaching others about it, right? So I've seen that type of instruction. I have seen also we have a learning path called TechQuest, and TechQuest is an auto-assigned asynchronous curriculum so that it's truly where a district can choose to turn it on and students maybe do it every day for bell work, or they can do it over the holidays, or whatever the implementation is. But so the thing I love most about our curriculum is the flexibility, right? It can be implemented any way a district or campus needs and wants, whether it's through their third-party LMS that they use, like Google Classroom or something like that, or they're using truly the learning.com platform. It's such a great variety of way that they can do it. The other thing that is kind of nice is our customers have customer success managers. And those folks really have the deep conversations with them about how, why, when they want to use the curriculum so that it's not just a here's the curriculum, goodbye. We truly partner with the districts to make sure that the way they need to implement is the way that works the best for their students and their teachers too.
I'm hearing that it could be if you have a quote unquote tech teacher, that
Hmm.
tech teacher could teach this, but it can also be incorporated throughout your other core curricula throughout the day if you need it.
Absolutely.
If you don't
Absolutely.
have a designated tech teacher or tech class or anything like
Right,
that.
right. I've actually even seen it implemented in the physical education classroom.
Oh, really?
Talking about,
Huh.
yeah, talking about online safety, and it's
Mm.
been neat to see some of these teachers because they extend beyond our instruction and they have students do movement activities and play
Mm.
games around some of the topics and the concepts. So, yeah, it can truly be implemented any way that works. We have it in after school programs as well. So,
Oh.
wide variety of ways to implement the curriculum.
When you said PE, physical education at first, I was kind of like, really? But then I stopped and I thought about it. It's typically called health enhancement now.
True. Yep.
Using devices is such a huge part of our health as humans. So it actually makes sense if you have a health enhancement teacher that has a quote unquote health class that you're learning about how to use digital devices
Hmm.
in a healthy way, in a responsible way, understanding that, social algorithms are really built to be addicting. The fact that most kids don't know that and they're
Right.
addicted to their phones. And I hear that from every teacher I talk to. Kids are addicted to their phones. Have you had discussions as adults in their lives with them about why?
Right. And do they
You
even
know?
understand what that means? What does
Do
it
they even
even
understand what
mean
that
to be addicted
means?
to your phone?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. What isn't? I mean, we talk about other addictions
right.
in health enhancement class, and I don't know, I'd have to look up stats and fact check this, but I would guess that phone addiction is probably at the top,
Oh, I
in the
would think
top
so.
five, maybe even top three
Yeah.
addiction issues with teenagers and kids too, not just teenagers, the tweens and
Mhm.
the younger kids as well. So that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I would think so too. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. And well, on that note, it is scary. And I think saying that, and I'm really trying to myself acknowledge that in my work and
Mhm.
say it out loud. It is scary. Technology can be scary. But what happens when we're scared and we're fearful? Typically, we tend to retreat.
Right.
We tend to act like it's not happening. We tend to pull the wool over our eyes. And we cannot do that,
No.
especially now with all of these crazy AI technologies getting,
Mm.
or I guess all around us. You can't walk in a store now without having
No.
some sort of AI security
Yep.
camera scanning your face, face detection.
Right.
So, yeah, it's scary stuff, but we have to go the opposite way
Yeah.
of what fear tends to do to us as humans and instead educate, right?
Yeah.
Education is the answer so that
It
we can
is.
fight back and have a voice in
Yeah.
these scary things.
And I think you have such a good point there, Lindy, because, when you think about fear, fear is just the unknown, right? If I
Hmm.
have a fear of, I'm making this up, tarantulas, maybe it's because I've never been around a tarantula and all I saw was some scary movie, right, that had tarantulas in them. I don't know enough about tarantulas, so maybe this wasn't a good example, but maybe they're not really as scary as I think they are. And once I learn about it, I can make those good judgment calls on whether or not I want to interact with the tarantula or technology or AI or, whatever else may be coming down the road for us.
It's such a great analogy. I was talk about unhealthy tech use, was binging TikTok last night. It happens. I do it a lot. I'm a TikTok user. Whenever I need to just just turn off my brain, just go into
Mhm.
TikTok, start scrolling. But again, I understand that it's meant to be addicting and keep
Yeah.
me scrolling, and
Yep.
I know when to shut it off. But I was doing my little doom scroll. That's what they call it now. That's what they call it, the doom scroll. I have never been to Australia, and there was this video of a molted spider leg in Australia, and it was gigantic. I'm not scared. I don't have arachnophobia. I'm not scared of spiders. And my immediate reaction was, maybe I don't want to go to Australia. Oh, Australia is one of those places I've always had on like my
Me
top five
too.
places to
It
visit.
is
I'm
on
like,
my list.
but literally that thought went through my head. And then I
Uh-huh.
went, no, Lindy, I bet this isn't nearly as bad as what you think it is. So guess what I did? Like, if I would have like let the fear overtake me, I could have just kept scrolling, or I could have just shut it off, walked away. Like I never want to go to Australia. I went and I searched TikTok for Australia spiders and the largest spiders in Australia. And I started, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I saw this video of Robert Irwin from the
Mhm.
Australia
Yeah.
Zoo, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, they are gigantic spiders in compared to the spiders that we have in the US.
Okay.
But it wasn't even close to what that initial video had me imagining
Mhm.
and fearing in my
Mhm.
brain. So
Mhm.
that's a perfect example of, instead of backing away and being like, nope, I'm never gonna go to Australia because I'm scared of these giant spiders
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Instead, I went and educated myself and realized that the molt of the spider leg that he was showing was maybe a bit of an exaggeration, because social media never exaggerates,
Oh, no,
right?
never, not at all.
And I went and I went and educated myself. And now
Mhm.
I'm like, yes, I do want to go to Australia again. It's still in my top 5 places
Yeah.
to visit.
But
So,
you
there you
you
go.
as an adult knew to go do that, right? Our kids, if we don't take the
Yes.
time to teach them, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. If we don't take the time to teach them how, when, why, where, all of those things, um, it is going to build in a certain type of bias. in their minds for their future, you know? And
Yep.
it's scary when we think about that here comes the fear part again, you know, but the fear for me is that learners, again, any age, that learners miss out on amazing experiences in life because they don't have all the information they need to truly evaluate it.
Yep. Because I knew as an adult that has had lots of experience with this stuff and understands the technology
Hmm.
that video that I know that social media is meant to exaggerate,
Right.
right? I know that social media is not always an accurate source of information. Often it's not
Right.
at all an accurate source of information. So I knew to keep digging and looking. But you're right. Kids, and not just kids, but a lot of adults
Mhm.
don't know that. And
They
they get
don't.
in these echo chambers. That's another word
Right.
that's
Yep.
super
Yep.
important. We've talked about echo chambers for a long time, but now these social media algorithms are making these echo chambers
Are
like
enhancing them. Yep.
enhancing this
Hmm.
idea of an echo chamber where like you're only hearing and seeing what you want, what you're interested in, what feeds you, what feeds
Yep.
your interests, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're seeing the effects, the negative effects of us not educating and teaching these things in our society in terms of our democracy and elections and misinformation and disinformation out there.
Yeah, you know, and people say misinformation, people say disinformation, people say information, right? Just in general. Do do our learners really even know what that means? Right?
No,
Do they
I don't think most
understand the
adults.
difference?
No, I actually, whenever I teach that
Mhm.
idea, I define them
Yeah.
because most people don't.
Yep.
Misinformation is
Right.
not intentional. So,
Right.
like a clickbaity ad, for example,
Right.
or a hallucination from an AI model.
Yeah.
Disinformation is purposeful and
Mhm.
intentional, misleading information. And we have a lot of disinformation in
Yeah.
the media
Yeah.
right now, in particular. And I went to a librarian conference
Yeah.
in September.
Mhm.
It was super fun. They are my people. And I learned another term, malinformation,
Heard that recently too.
which
Yeah,
now I can't remember how
I
they
know.
distinguished. Hold on, I'm going to Google it. I am not doing, okay, my digital citizenship skills are coming into play here that I'm not using Google's AI summary because it tends to be riddled with hallucinations,
Yes.
people. I'm doing a whole
Yes.
session on that at well, not on just that, but including that at TCA. Okay, so this says malinformation is information which is based on fact but removed from its original
Oh,
context.
yes.
That's right,
Yes, I
in
remember
order
that.
to
Yep.
mislead, harm, or manipulate. So
Yep.
disinformation is just like flat out, it's wrong. We're purposefully misleading.
Right.
Malinformation is it's not necessarily wrong information, but they've taken it out of
Out of
context.
context. Yep.
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 Yeah. All right. Well, we better move on
Okay.
because we have to do a segment that I call Tech Check or Tech Wreck. Womp womp.
Okay.
In this segment, I give you something, and you have to give me an honest take on whether you think it's a tech check or a tech wreck. And
Okay.
listeners, if this is your first episode, I do not tell them what this is ahead of time. So this is always a surprise. And I always try to pick something a little bit controversial potentially to get an idea of where you're at. Okay,
All
so I
right.
chose this one because I really want to know what your thoughts and feelings, because there's so much in the media and news and like so much of this happening, what your thoughts and feelings are on this. Banning student cell phones in schools.
So this is an easy one for me. And it goes back to something I said earlier. If we don't teach them, they're going to do whatever they do with it, right? If we at least teach them, we have a shot. So I think banning is a tech wreck. I fully believe wholeheartedly that if we teach and we model, I don't want to use the word behavior, but good interactions, right? Then we can show students the healthy way to use and interact with their devices. Now, does that mean I think students should have their devices out the whole time in the school day? No, I don't. I believe there are times that you put your devices away and then you have your devices out. But the difference is when it's purposeful, right? It's not having a device out just to have it out. It's because it enhances the learning experience in some way, and it needs to be planned out. So maybe it's a little bit of both. Can I say it's both? Is that an
Both is
option?
fine. That
Okay.
happens sometimes. It can be a little bit of both. You don't have to take the stance one way or another.
Yeah, because I mean, a full ban, I think, is a tech wreck. A balance and a purposeful design for when tech is used or not used, that's a tech check to me.
Yeah, agree. And you're in Texas. Is Texas isn't Texas one of the states that banned it statewide?
So
Every school in
yeah,
Texas?
yeah, yeah. So it's been a piece of the puzzle in trying to figure this out. And one of the things that I will say is, on the flip side, right? If students have a device, and I'm going to pull AI back into the conversation for a second. If students have a device, and I mean, I have AI tools on my phone, and I truly consider them tools because they're just a resource that I use sometimes. If students have access to all of these things on their phone and we don't show them the right way to interact with AI, whether it's on a laptop, a computer, a tablet, a phone, they get this idea of how and when to use it, right? But if we are teaching them and showing them on all different devices, and we're explaining why and when, as well as the how, then it takes them to a different level of understanding, a different level of citizenship, a different level of being smart and safe online.
I agree. This is a tough one. You did a good job with. Like I said, I've given every
Thank
guest
you.
so far. I've given like a really hard, controversial one. I need to be nicer to my guests, or else I may not have any guests come back on the podcast again. But these are questions that I get asked like almost
Yeah.
every single
These
day,
these
and
are
I
real
love
questions though.
real
Yeah.
questions. I love to get other people's takes on them, and this one is so hard. I'm 100%, I would have probably echoed almost your exact answer. I've had 3 conversations just in the past couple weeks that have got me thinking even more. I think a lot about this, but thinking
Mhm.
even more about this. One was from a colleague that teaches, and he said the addiction with phones, and he teaches high school. So he's like, you cannot imagine and I'm like, oh no, I can imagine. I know. I've seen it in the kids in my life. I see it in the schools that I visit. I know that the phone addiction is horrific, and it's so hard as a teacher to teach with that and getting their attention otherwise
Mhm.
and teaching with that. I get that. But the other side of the story is my friend and colleague Erica, she was a guest a couple episodes ago. We did a session at FETC together on teacher created video. And she said in that session that we somehow got talking about student created video instead of teacher created video because we're
Okay.
cool
Yeah.
like that. And but she said that her school banned cell phones this year. She's in the Boston area,
Okay.
and she teaches media, like video creation. That's what she teaches, and they have Chromebooks. So she's like, my kids are now trying to record videos on a Chromebook that doesn't have, it only has a front facing camera.
Yeah.
If anybody has
Yeah.
ever tried to do that, it's
It's
horrible. It's a
hard.
horrible
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So she's like, for me, taking the stance of we're banning it school wide has been really detrimental to my work and what I do
Imagine. Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
teacher. So those are just 2 completely different takes on the topic. And I think it comes down to, I've asked this to so many people. I always say, when, and I've yet to get a good example, by the way. I need somebody to give me a good example. When in the history of humans that we know of has banning something actually worked?
I don't know of anything, and the reality
Prohibition didn't work.
is nope, nope. The reality is when we ban something, it like entices people to find a way around it, right? I mean,
Yes.
if we talk about kids in high school, right? They are on their phones outside of school, in their real world life outside of school. When they walk in the door and we take that away, how are we preparing them to be safe and smart when they're back in that world where they're not right in front of us?
Yep. Oh, I had a third conversation that I had. That was right. I only gave two because the third conversation is really important here because I was actually interviewed for an Australian podcast and it hasn't come out yet. But when I was interviewed, it was literally the week that Australia was implementing their countrywide ban on cell phones in school. Or sorry,
Mm-hmm.
not cell phones in schools. It's social media, Lindy.
Mm-hmm.
So Australia has, I think it went in effect January 1st, 2026. Countrywide, nobody under 16 can use any social media site. And the person that was interviewing me, she's not a teacher, but of course I was giving the education aspect of, that's what I do. But she said she has two daughters that are like teen and preteen age. And she asked me, she's like, how do I teach them to use this technology responsibly and ethically when I can give them no access whatsoever? And that control was taken out of my hands as that
Right.
decision was taken out
Mm-hmm.
of my hands as a
Mm-hmm.
parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not have a good answer for her. I don't have an answer. I don't know how. There's a lot that you can do. I mean, even when I'm doing AI literacy trainings with teachers and students, a lot of what I do is no tech, like
Right.
we're not even touching tech,
Yeah.
or very low tech. Like, honestly, a lot of my AI literacy stuff is very low tech. But there comes a point when I'm a big fan of the definition of AI literacy is you have to use, you have to understand, and you have to evaluate, not particular in that order,
Yeah.
but you have to have all three of those points. It comes to a point where you can understand so much and that's going to help you evaluate the technology. But if you
Mm-hmm.
don't use the technology, you're never going to fully understand it and you're never going to fully be able to evaluate it. And I think the same is true for like Australia banning social media and schools banning cell phones. And like you said, I am 100% not saying unfettered access.
Right.
Some
Right.
people, yeah, like some people tend to, I always say, like, I tend to be the cheerleader when it comes to tech, and like that's my job. Like, we can do it, and we got to teach responsible use, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can do it, teachers. But some people take that to mean that cheerleader aspect of my world to mean that I just want like unfettered access
Yeah.
and no compliance and no security and no safety. That is not the case at all. But I think when you go to one extreme or the other, like completely
Mm-hmm.
banning, it's going to create some unintended
I think
consequences.
so. Yeah. Yeah. I think it truly, truly does create those strange consequences. I mean,
Yep.
the reality is if we don't teach it in the school, then it puts it off on either the parents or some other place in the community for students to get this instruction, this understanding, this practice, this ability to know how to evaluate and make the right decisions. And it's kind of scary when you think about that, because the parents don't have the experience. Oh, well, some of them do. I shouldn't say in general, but unless you're kind of in the field and you understand, and it's hard to put that on them. A lot of adults, to your point with TikTok earlier, a lot of adults have built unhealthy relationships with social media. So then that means we're relying on them to teach their student or their children how to have healthy relationships. And maybe they truly don't know how to,
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's an interesting cycle that we can get caught up in if we are not teaching it.
Yep. That actually brings up another question that I get all the time. And I believe I got it at the end of one of our sessions at FETC, where they ask, should we be teaching this to the parents?
I
And
remember
my,
that.
do you remember? I
I
think we
do.
did. Wasn't
Yep.
that it?
It was.
The last week was a blur, but
I
I'm
know.
pretty sure that was it.
It
And then
was.
I had like 10 different sessions. So I'm like, was it that session? I think it was that session.
It was that.
My answer is 100%
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. And I know schools, you're like, hey, we've got so much, we just keep adding stuff to our plates. Like, not only do we have to teach them math and science and social studies and how to write and how to read, and now I got to teach them all these things, and not only teach the kids, but now I got to teach the parents. You are a social service if you're a public school
That's it.
or a charter school, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're a social service. Like, you need to provide that to the community. And even if you're a private school,
Yep.
what an awesome recruitment tool. Like, if you need to
Oh,
think about it that way,
yeah.
bring the parents in and teach them. So on that note, do you guys see schools that have learning.com's easy tech curriculum like using it for parent nights and stuff?
hmm In fact, we will help our schools, our districts, by providing them some information through our online training center that kind of gives them guidance on how to have some of these parent nights, if you will, and hosting those kinds of things. But yeah, we absolutely do have customers that do it. When I was in Pasadena and in Clear Creek here in Texas, there were parent nights where the parents would come in and they would actually get to go into the computer lab and use learning.com's easy tech curriculum or the tech apps for Texas curriculum to gain those skills. And so it's been interesting to see our schools really take this on as not a challenge, but really a call to action to help the parents. Because again, learners are learners regardless of age, and if they don't have the knowledge and skills, then it potentially can negatively impact them and the community. So it's really a, I don't know, a way to bring positive social change by providing the technology instruction to
Yep.
the parents or the adults in the community as well.
And if you're like, oh, I don't have the capacity for this, I don't have time to put this together, have the kids
Yeah.
teach the parents at
Yeah,
parent night, right? So if you're
absolutely.
having these conversations and with these lessons, how cool would that be
I
for
know.
kids to get up and teach their parents about social algorithm addiction
Yeah.
and how to be safe online? Like, the amount of my Facebook friends that get hacked because they don't have a good password.
Mm-hmm. That's
Right.
it.
And these are adults, right? So, like,
Right.
how cool would that be for the kids to be teaching their parents and other community members? And how great does that make the school look? I'm
Yeah,
always saying that you tell your own story.
that's
There's
it.
a lot of
That is it.
negativity about K
Yep.
12 education out there right now, especially public education. And I know it's terrible and it stinks, and we could sit and we could dwell on it forever. But instead, again, take the positive road and just
Yeah.
tell the story, share the great things that are happening.
Mhm.
And that is such a great way to do that. Like, have the kids teach the parents and community members.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be
absolutely.
about tech, it could be about anything, but that's just such a purposeful topic that's meaningful to every human that carries a mini computer around in
Yeah,
their pocket.
right. And have students, create things, posters, or, if you have like a public service TV station or public service radio station or anything, even not the public service ones, but have students create things and share them out, right? But how cool is it for a student to walk into a cafe in their hometown and see a poster they created about staying safe online? I mean, there's some powerful things that we can do. And when I was in LaPorte and Pasadena, where it's kind of an industrial area, and so we had a lot of the businesses in the area really partner with the schools in the school district to enable students to do things like that. And it was pretty powerful. So that's another idea or another way to kind of extend the teaching and learning out into the community.
You mentioned it earlier, and then I said it again, AI literacy. Tell me, how is learning.com thinking about AI literacy? How is this fitting with your easy tech curriculum?
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, we developed and released some AI curriculum, and we really focused on teaching students the how, the what, maybe not in this order, and the when of AI, right? So really helping them understand what this thing is that we are calling AI. And so it was about the skills and the knowledge and the understanding. And we had, just like all of our other models, right? Instruction, practice, projects, and assessments. And so even just 2 years later, what we've learned is, oh, wow, it's time for a refresh. It's time for new curriculum. We are actually in the process of developing new curriculum again, to further enhance and further teach artificial intelligence to students, kindergarten through 8th grade, so that all students have a basic foundation and understanding. Now, of course, what you teach a kindergartner looks vastly different than what you teach, an 8th grader. But giving them the opportunity to learn and practice and apply in a place and in a way that we know is safe is critical to the work we're doing. And how does it fit with EdTech? EdTech covers, I'm going to use the word survey thinking college. You take a survey course, right? And you learn about all these different pieces that connect to some topic. So EdTech provides that to our students, right? Because they are learning everything, like I said earlier, from like the basic fundamentals of computing to keyboarding to doing research to creating products to computational thinking, coding, AI literacy. They learn all of these different things, but we've done it in a way where it sets a solid foundation, and scaffolds into other topics and to sort of depth of knowledge that goes far deeper. And it's a neat process and a neat way for us to help students evolve, and teach them how to kind of grow with the technology, because we know technology changes. We know it is not static. Sometimes it changes daily, right? And so it's been pretty exciting to be able to know that we can provide foundational skills as well as deeper learning so that students are able to interact in their digital world, whether it's in school, outside of school, and even as they start to kind of become more aware and explore careers, so that they're doing all of this in a really smart and safe way, as opposed to just sort of whatever they think might be right.
So much of the conversation around AI in education has been focused on the don't cheat mentality,
Mm.
and for good reason. It's the number one issue that most middle school and high school teachers, or I should say number one, top three again, we'll go with top
Probably,
three
probably.
issues. I'm generalizing here. Issues that most, especially middle school, high school teachers are
Hmm.
having. And when you have an issue that's just so in your face, it's hard to focus on anything else. How does your AI literacy curriculum fit with the don't cheat mentality, or maybe go beyond the don't cheat mentality of AI in education?
Yeah, so one of the things with the don't cheat is students always find ways to cheat. And I hate to say it that way, but students are creative. And we want them to be creative, just maybe not in the wrong ways. So again, kind of helping them harness their the directions that they take their creativity. But the way this curriculum is designed is to help them understand how to purposefully use, right? How to use and interact with AI in a way that enhances their learning experience or enhances the work that they do. So when you think about the projects that students do, it's not, pick your favorite AI tool, ask it a question, and run with whatever it spits out, right? It's truly evaluate which is the right AI tool to interact with for whatever you're trying to do, understanding that AI still hallucinates, AI has bias, and how do you go through and evaluate the responses? How do you go in and verify the sources of the information? You have to ask AI to cite the source, and then you have to go truly verify the source that it cited, because sometimes it makes that up too. So we've built the curriculum in a way that guides students through this process so that it helps them understand the value of when and when not to use AI.
So you're building their understanding, their literacy about the technology, so that then when the opportunity to quote unquote cheat happens and copy and paste from
Yep.
a chat GPT, they stop and they think, oh, wait, I learned though that it hallucinates and that it
Right.
might not be exactly right. And I
Right.
need to fact check. Again, when they know better, they do better.
Yeah. And it's helping students see the analogy, right? So it used to be that that we would say, don't go to Wikipedia, right? Don't use Wikipedia because anybody can post information on there. Oh, when you go to Google and you search and you're trying to find information, helping them know that sponsored responses or, websites come up first, and like how to evaluate and analyze all of those things. AI is no different, right? It's just we're just teaching those same kind of skills and helping them see and understand with just a new type of well, it's not new, but to them a new type of technology that they're interacting with. And AI isn't the last technology that they're going to have to do that with, right? But if we can teach them those skills now, as they grow, as they become adults, as they invent and create new things, hopefully they will be keeping these things in mind and it will impact positively innovations in the future.
Learning.com has a new AI resource center as well. Tell me
Do.
about that.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. One of the things that we learned early on in working with customers, non-customers, policymakers, all sorts of groups, is that there's a lot of different resources out there, right? There's a lot of different places to go. And so what we did for the AI Resource Center was really try to curate some things that might make life easier for teachers, right? So in this area, we not only have a policy hub that can help districts or states, or any entity for that matter, kind of go through the process of understanding AI policy, and understanding how to shape AI policy so that what is happening is truly building positive impact, and how to kind of navigate through. So um, we looked at lots of different publicly available resources, AI for K-12, ISTE, and a bunch of other organizations. So we looked at their frameworks, we looked at the policies that are out there. So we've kind of curated and provided those resources. We also have curated some professional development and webinars on a variety of different topics that can help teachers just learn, but also feel more comfortable in what they do on a regular basis. And then we've put together some guides, some toolkits, and other just information related to policy. And so it's exciting when you look at it because some of the resources that we've put together, we've actually kind of grouped them for elementary versus secondary versus electives versus computer science. And so there are some projects out there that teachers can actually access and use in addition to if they are learning.com customers. And if they're not, then they have access to these resources as well. And one of the neat pieces that we added in was sort of some information on like the do's and don'ts of AI in the classroom. So some of that information that you and I kind of have been talking about. And then again, there's some curriculum and some lesson resources out there, and some blog posts. So there's just a wealth of information that is all free out there on the learning.com AI Resource Center.
If you are feeling FOMO over FETC that we were talking about, it's done now. Don't worry. We're going to be at the Kelli Lindy show and much more is going to be
Yes.
at TCA in a couple weeks in San Antonio. So if you're joining us, I have, I think, 5 sessions and a
5
panel.
sessions. And then the panel
Yeah.
discussion, I'm really
Yeah.
excited about the panel discussion.
Yeah, so we're going to dive deeper into all the things that we're talking about here today. Room 216AB is where you can find both of us. Learning.com also has a booth there as well, 1253 at TCA if you want to stop by. So, looking forward to that. Kelli, Thank you so much for joining us. We end every episode with a Make EdTech 100 moment. If you were to give someone one Make EdTech 100 moment to leave listeners with, what would it be?
Wow. I think it would be that as much as I appreciate having technology in my life, in the world, and I do feel like it has brought some positives, I want to say don't ever forget the human intelligence piece of the puzzle, right? I think my big Make EdTech 100 moment is that we have to have a balance between the human intelligence and the technology if we're really gonna powerfully prepare students for their future.
Agree. All right, my Make EdTech 100. I just love how you started the episode, Kelli. You said, if they know better, they do better. So that's what I want to leave people with because it's so, so true. Education is so powerful. If your students know better, they do better. So think about all the challenges you might be having with students with AI and different technology use or cell phone use or whatever it is. And think about how you could step back and maybe start having the conversations with them about how the social media companies sell your personal information and how algorithms are addicting. It's amazing when you start to, and bias in AI
Right.
models. I do that lesson with kids all the time, and they are so offended when I give them examples about how AI models are biased towards Gen Z and Gen Alpha learners. They get so offended, and you can just see the wheels turning because they maybe have never thought of
Right.
technology in that light before. Thanks for joining Make EdTech 100. I know educator time is valuable, and I'm honored you choose to spend yours with me. For more EdTech strategies you can use tomorrow and ways to bring me to your school or event, head to lindyhawk.com. If this episode resonated, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'm Lindy Hawk. Go forth and make EdTech 100.